As human beings, I believe there's nothing more precious than the power of our voice. For me personally, there's nothing that disheartens me more than to see someone whose voice has been squelched. While at the same time, there's nothing more exhilarating to me than to see someone who has found the power of their voice and is using it in positive and profound ways to make an impact in the world. Hi, everyone. Chris Natzke here with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of a Champion tip of the week: the power of our voice. As a professional speaker, I've been blessed to travel all over the country, being able to inspire and motivate audiences through the power of my voice. As a martial arts instructor, I've been able to see students basically find their own power through what we call the key up, which is the spirit yell. And as a self-defense instructor, particularly coaching people on how they can use their voice to fend off aggression, it's been transformational for me to see people find the absolute power of their voice. With all that being said, there's nothing more impactful for me than seeing my own son find the power of his voice. A little story about my son Jason. When he was young, as a toddler, he had suffered a series of ear infections. And as a result of that, what happened is because of the ear infections, he was having a loss of hearing, which then also impeded his ability not only to hear, but then also to learn how to speak. In fact, in his very early years, we had to teach him sign language because he wanted to express himself, but he wasn't able to speak because he just hadn't caught up with his vocabulary yet. Now, it didn't end there. As he grew into his middle school and high school years, it continued to be part of his challenge where he developed stuttering. The disfluency had basically started at that early age, and now as a teenager, it had really, really impacted him in a negative way. And in fact, I think he'd be the first to say that it caused him to really hold himself back from maybe taking some courageous steps and things that he might have wanted to pursue because he was so embarrassed by his inability to speak effectively. But this all changed when he was around 17. He was getting ready to test for an advanced degree of black belt with he and two of his fellow martial art classmates. And as a requirement for this testing, they were asked to put together a musical form or a musical kata that would demonstrate their abilities. Well, it was about 2 to 3 weeks before the test, and Jason asked if he could speak with me. And that's when he said, "Dad, you know, I could do this musical form, but you know what would really challenge me? Is if I gave a speech." Now, I have to admit, for a moment, my heart sunk. You know, being dad, all I wanted to do was protect my son. But being the martial arts instructor, I knew this was exactly what he needed to do. So the day of the test came and the candidates were doing what they do, and it was an exciting and fantastic test, particularly Jason and his two other classmates. And now it was time for his speech. And I remember, hesitantly handing him over the microphone across the judges' table, just praying that he'd be able to get through. And that's when my son stood in the middle of the gymnasium and faced 300 people in the stands and gave a 5-minute talk brilliantly, with power, with passion, with intention, and without stuttering a word. And the entire gymnasium just went nuts and gave him a hearty ovation. I remember coming across the table and just grabbing him and giving him this huge hug. And I was so proud of him. He faced his fears. But what was so amazing about that experience is that it didn't end there. You see, what happened is magically Jason's speech got better. I mean, he still occasionally had some difficulties with words, but it was a dramatic increase than had ever happened before. He was able to articulate himself and speak powerfully. And then fast forward 5 years later, he was standing in front of a full auditorium at his college graduation, having been selected by his classmates to give the commencement speech, once again, without a stutter. And now, what he does is he has his own business, film and videography company called Stories Delight, where he helps people find the power of their voice through his film and videography work. So, where do you have an opportunity to find the power of your voice? And I've got three steps that I think, or three ideas that I'd like to share with you. They're brief ideas, but I think that they can really help us all, particularly when we're up against it, particularly when we feel like we need to hold back about leaning into the power of our voice. And the first is this, is learn to say yes. Learn to say yes. I mean, it's often been said that people on their deathbed aren't most regretful for the things they did in their life. They're regretful for the things they didn't do. And I think it was Emerson who said is, do the thing you fear and the death of fear is certain. So where do you have an opportunity to say yes to life? Number two is learn to say no. Now, this might seem the antithesis of what I just said, but hear me out. Learning to say no once you understand what your real goals are and what your real vision is for your life, for your business, for your relationship, when you're clear on those yeses, you'll be able to say no to things that are not consistent with those. And you're not afraid of hurting people's feelings because you know deep down inside that's what's right for you. And when your no's are strong, your yeses are even stronger because now you can say yes to things unencumbered because it's totally consistent with what you want to create in your life. And then finally, make sure that you're able to say, I'm here. I'm here. Be able to stand up, be able to have the courage to try new things, be able to have the courage to volunteer for things. You know, there was a story I heard years ago about an NBA coach, and he had come from relatively humble beginnings as a player. I mean, he played at a major college, but he made it into the NBA and was having tremendous success. And when the interviewer asked him how he got to that place, he said, well, every opportunity there was for a clinic, every opportunity there was for a job interview, I just kept showing up. I just kept showing up. So where do you have an opportunity to show up and powerfully utilize your voice? So there you have it, my friends. There's three ideas about finding the power of our voice. And I can guarantee you that if you lean into it, and particularly in the times where you think that you're most scared, and you're able to break through and make that happen, it can totally be life-changing for you and the people around you. So this has been Chris NATZKE with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching. Find the power of your voice, and we'll see you next time on the Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week.